For generations, Filipinos have honored Jose Rizal as the national hero of the Philippines. His writings awakened a nation, his novels exposed injustice, and his execution in 1896 helped ignite the Philippine Revolution. But hidden within the final hours of his life lies a mystery that has divided historians, scholars, and believers for more than a century. According to some accounts, on the night before his execution, Jose Rizal signed a document retracting everything he had written against the Catholic Church. Spanish priests claimed that the famous reformist suddenly took back his criticisms. They said Rizal reaffirmed his loyalty to the Church and withdrew the ideas that had made him the most dangerous writer in the Spanish colony. If this were true, it would mean that in the final hours of his life, Rizal abandoned the very principles that had inspired a nation. But many historians strongly dispute this story. They argue that the supposed retraction was never proven for decades, that the original document mysteriously disappeared, and that the testimonies of those who claimed to witness it were contradictory and questionable. More than a century later, the debate still remains unresolved. Was Jose Rizal truly faithful to his ideals until the very end? Or did he surrender them in the final hours before his death? Who was Jose Rizal? Before we examine the controversy surrounding his final hours, we first need to understand the man himself, because for most Filipinos, Jose Rizal is not just a historical figure. He is a symbol of intelligence, courage, and love for country. Jose Rizal was born on June 19, 1861, in Calamba, Laguna. Even as a child, Rizal showed remarkable intelligence. He learned to read early and quickly developed a love for books, poetry, and learning. His family valued education and encouraged his curiosity. As he grew older, his talents became even more clear. He studied at Ateneo Municipal de Manila, where he graduated with highest honors. Later, he attended the University of Santo Tomas to study medicine. But Rizal wanted to learn more than what the Philippines could offer at the time. So he traveled to Europe to continue his studies. There, he became not only a doctor, but also a writer, historian, artist, and scholar. Rizal spoke many languages and was respected in intellectual circles abroad. But what made Rizal dangerous to the Spanish colonial government was not his intelligence. It was his ideas. Rizal the Critic. In the late 1800s, the Philippines was under Spanish colonial rule. For more than 300 years, Spanish officials and religious orders held enormous power. Many Filipinos experienced injustice. Taxes were heavy, opportunities were limited, and some Spanish friars abused their authority. Rizal saw these problems clearly. Instead of fighting with weapons, he chose a different path. He used his words. In 1887, Rizal published the novel Noli Me Tangere. The book exposed corruption and abuse within colonial society. But the most controversial parts of the novel involved the friars. Through his characters, Rizal showed how some religious leaders used their power to control and exploit Filipinos. The novel shocked readers. For the first time, many Filipinos saw their own struggles reflected in a book. But Spanish authorities saw something else. They saw danger. From critic to enemy of the state, Rizal's writings did something the Spanish authorities deeply feared. They made Filipinos think. And thinking was the one thing the colonial government did not want. Because once people begin questioning authority, they begin questioning everything. For more than 300 years, Spanish rule depended on obedience. Filipinos were expected to follow orders, pay taxes, and accept whatever authority told them. Few were encouraged to ask questions. But Rizal changed that. Through his novels, he exposed the darker side of colonial life. Corruption, abuse of power, and the way many Filipinos were treated like strangers in their own land. In Noli Me Tangere, readers saw priests abusing authority, officials exploiting the poor, and innocent families suffering under a system that rarely protected them. For many Filipinos, it was the first time they saw their own reality written in a book. What people whispered in private, Rizal wrote for everyone to see. And that made his words dangerous. Students began reading the novel in secret. Intellectuals debated its ideas. And slowly, a powerful thought began spreading across the islands. The idea that Filipinos deserved justice, perhaps even equality, and someday, perhaps even freedom. For Spanish authorities and powerful friars, this was alarming, because revolutions do not begin with guns. They begin with ideas, and Rizal was spreading those ideas everywhere. He was no longer just a writer. To the colonial government, Jose Rizal was becoming something far more dangerous. The voice of a people beginning to wake up. The revolution begins. By the 1890s, dissatisfaction with Spanish rule was growing. Across the Philippines, secret revolutionary groups were beginning to organize. One of them would soon become famous, the Katipunan. Led by Andres Bonifacio, the Katipunan believed reform was no longer enough. They believed Spain would never willingly give Filipinos equality. To them, freedom had to be fought for. In 1896, the revolution finally began. Filipino revolutionaries launched uprisings in several provinces. Spanish authorities were shocked. They quickly began searching for someone to blame. And one name stood above all others: Jose Rizal. Even though Rizal had not taken part in the revolution, many Spanish officials believed his writings had inspired it, so they decided to arrest him. Rizal's trial. Rizal was brought back to Manila and placed on trial by the Spanish military court. The charges against him were serious: rebellion, sedition, and conspiracy against the Spanish government. But many historians believe the outcome of the trial had already been decided. Rizal was too influential, too respected by the Filipino people, and Spanish authorities feared that as long as he lived, his ideas would continue spreading. So the colonial government made its decision. Jose Rizal would be executed. He would die by firing squad on December 30th, 1896. The final hours. But the night before his execution, something happened that would later divide historians for generations. Spanish priests visited Rizal inside his prison cell. According to their accounts, Rizal made a surprising decision. They claimed that Rizal signed a document now known as the Rizal retraction. This document supposedly declared that Rizal withdrew his criticisms of the Catholic Church. It stated that he regretted the ideas he had written against the friars, and that he reaffirmed his loyalty to the Church. If this story were true, it would mean something shocking. It would mean that the man who had criticized the powerful friars had taken back his own words, only hours before his execution. The doubts begin. But almost immediately, many Filipinos began questioning this story. They asked a simple question: why would Rizal suddenly change his mind? For years he had defended his writings. He had faced exile, he had faced threats, and he had continued standing by his ideas. So why would he abandon them now? The timing made many people suspicious, but there was an even bigger problem. No one could produce the original document. The missing document. For many years, the supposed retraction document could not be found. Historians searched archives, researchers examined records, but the original document remained missing. This absence created serious doubts. Some scholars began to believe the retraction story might have been created after Rizal's death, perhaps to protect the reputation of powerful religious authorities, or perhaps to weaken the influence of Rizal's writings. Without the original document, the debate continued. The discovery. Then something surprising happened. In 1935, nearly 40 years after Rizal's execution, a document believed to be the original retraction was discovered in church archives. For supporters of the retraction story, this seemed like proof. They argued that the document finally confirmed that Rizal had indeed signed it. But critics remained cautious. Some questioned whether the handwriting truly matched Rizal's signature. Others asked why such an important document appeared only decades after his death. Instead of ending the debate, the discovery only made the mystery deeper. Rizal's final poem. On the night before his execution, Rizal wrote a poem that would later become one of the most famous works in Philippine history. It was called Mi Ultimo Adios, My Last Farewell. In the poem, Rizal spoke about love for his country. He wrote about sacrifice, about hope for the future of the Filipino people. Many historians believe the poem reflects a man who remained loyal to his ideals. Nothing in the poem suggests regret for exposing injustice. Instead, it sounds like the farewell of someone ready to give his life for his country. The execution. On the morning of December 30th, 1896, Jose Rizal was brought to Bagumbayan, an open field in Manila during the Spanish colonial era. Today, that same place is known as Rizal Park, also called Luneta. Witnesses said he remained calm and composed. He refused a blindfold. Around him stood Spanish soldiers, rifles ready. And behind the lines, Filipinos watched in silence, knowing they were about to lose a man who had dared to speak for them. In his final moment, Rizal gently turned his body to face the sky. The firing squad fired. The man who awakened a nation fell to the ground. Jose Rizal was only 35 years old. The question that remains. More than a century later, historians still debate what truly happened during Rizal's final hours. Did he really sign the retraction? Or was the document created later? The truth may never be known with complete certainty, but one thing is clear. Rizal's ideas awakened a nation, and his death inspired a movement that would eventually end Spanish rule. So the question remains, was Jose Rizal a hero or a hypocrite? For millions of Filipinos, the answer has never changed. Jose Rizal remains a hero, but the mystery of his final hours continues to challenge historians even today. What do you think? Did Rizal truly take back his words, or did he stand by his beliefs until the very end? Tell us in the comments.